This final question also comes from LA Brodus. It is, what type of impact do you see Emoni Bates having this season? I was saving the best for last. So has a lot to say about Bates, but Corey, I'm gonna let you go first.
I actually feel like it should be better for the viewers if you go first. I don't think they're going to like my answer, so you could go first.
All right. Okay. I won't try to take up too much time here, but I'll start off by saying this. In no way, shape, or form do I think that Emoni Bates should be a starter for the Cleveland Cavaliers this season. That's just blasphemy, in my opinion. Not to quote Stephen A. Smith.
Go off.
not to quote Stephen A. at all, but it's true. It's blasphemy. The dude obviously is raw. He needs some development. But Corey, there is a world in which I see Bates becoming a day one contributor off the bench. And what would have to happen in order for that to be the case, you ask? Well, for one, Bates has to have a phenomenal preseason showing. That's number one. And he has to impress in camp. He has to impress the coaching staff. Number two, other players ahead of him have to be shitty. And those other players, Max Strus, Isaac Okoro, Karis LeVert, Dean Wade to a degree. There are a number of players that Bates is going to have to outplay in order to even see like the 9th or 10th spot in this rotation. But it is completely possible. I think the offensive skill set they showcased in Summer League, and to a degree, even though the percentages were not great, at Eastern Michigan and Memphis, you can clearly see that this young man, and yes, I can say that. I feel qualified enough to say that. I'm 30. Bates is 19, if I'm not mistaken. The young man can shoot the basketball. He is a spot-up shooter at the very least. He can give you that. If they can kick the ball out to him in the corners, we know that you can trust Bates to knock down the open three ball. And we know that he could create his own shot, which could eventually come in handy. Maybe not so much on this current iteration of the Cavs, considering Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, Ricky Rubio, etc., are on the roster. But I do see a realm of possibility for him to immediately contribute in some form or fashion in spot minutes. But a lot of that is going to hinge upon whether or not he's converted, which I feel like might eventually happen. And then whether or not JB actually feels comfortable enough to give a rookie an opportunity, because classically he has not done that a lot, when forced to, now that we are out of the rebuild. So we'll have to see. But I think the most realistic impact that you'll probably get out of Bates will probably be not with the Cavs, but with the Cleveland Charge. I think that's where his immediate future lies. I know Richard Jefferson, I know Gilbert Arenas, and a slew of other people who would disagree with what I'm saying right now. But dude, I'm trying to remain. I'm not going to say realistic, because I don't think it's impossible for Bates to climb into the back end of the rotation. But I'm trying to remain, trying to keep my expectations for him a little bit tempered. How are you feeling about Bates and the impact that he could potentially have this season?
I feel like Bates is the off-season darling of the Cavs. It was kind of like I think Cavs fans didn't really get the splash move. Max Strus and George Niang didn't really do it for most of them. So they view immediately when Bates was drafted, it felt like everyone just went to like Hoops Hype or some site like that and was like, oh man, this guy looks like he could be a starting 3. And the Summer League, those first games, throw him away. In their mind, that wasn't even on tape. He only looks like a superstar player. So I think Bates is going to be a good player. I think he needs more time than I think most people expect to be on the floor and be a contributing NBA player. I think it's going to be completely different for him when he's not just going mostly against guys he just played in college, and it's going to be grown ass men who can bully the shit out of him because they're much bigger than him. I don't think like Bates is a slim dude, and it takes a certain level of player to overcome the like physical. He has an uphill battle physically in the NBA that I feel like will take a few years for him to get used to that type of contact, because I don't even think in summer league we saw many instances of him handle that type of contact well if he was met with it. But I think he'll do well with the charge. I think give him a season with some play in late games for the Cavs, practice with the teams, let them see what he's got going on. There could be games where we see that Emoni Bates needs to play just because of injury, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some minutes in those games. But overall, and I don't think it's a bad thing if this is what happens, is that Bates just rarely is seen in a Cavalier uniform. It's not a failure of the draft pick. It's just that there's a reason he was a second round pick and not a first round pick. And that's because some teams think he still needs to develop a little more before getting to the NBA level. And you don't want him to get them there. You don't want him to play NBA ball underdeveloped and then just completely shoot the whatever confidence is there. I don't think he'll lose it, but you don't want the team to kind of look at it and be like, wow, he was really outmatched out there. So for all the Emoni Bates fans that are clamoring for him to start, it might actually be best case scenario that he just doesn't play with the Cavs to start the season, period.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be away from the pressure cooker that is like the rotation this season. I think like I said, at the very least, this man can spot up and knock down some threes. And in summer league action, granted, a very small sample size, and you have to take it with a grain of salt, but he did knock down 40% from 3-point range, which I think like if there was one skill that you can't necessarily ignore in terms of that type of environment, it's shooting, because I feel like that can carry over to almost any platform that you're on in terms of basketball, or that be college, at the college level, at the G League level, at the NBA level, overseas, whatever, what have you. I think shooting carries. The frame, like there is real questions about, how long it's going to take him to add muscle or some type of strength to that frame. But if you're just relegated to being a spot up shooter, I don't think that would be necessarily a huge issue. And I think that's what his initial role with this team would be, is just, hey, stand over there in that corner, we'll get you some shot opportunities. Do I think that's going to happen from day one? No. I think especially it's very telling right now that they haven't converted him just yet. And that kind of tells you that, hey, we probably want this guy to start his NBA career off in the G League with the Cleveland Charge with Mike Garrity and company, which is an excellent place for him to continue to develop, especially on the defensive end. And we know one thing is for certain, and that's that has actually done very well for guys in the past. Um, Isaiah Mobley is obviously still working his way up to the NBA level, but we saw how much improvement from Mobley from 1 year in the G League, how much that has actually positively impacted his overall game. Although you didn't see the 3-point percentages that you wanted to see in summer league action this year, you could see that he was more comfortable handling the ball. We could see that he was more comfortable in the low post, on the defensive end. There's just various avenues that being in that type of environment can do for you from a developmental standpoint. And I think that players like Emoni Bates, Craig Porter Jr., even Mobley himself, to a standpoint, that environment really can help you, especially when you just don't have a lot of opportunities in the roster at this point in time with the Cavs, since they are looking to actually head towards contendership. You just, unfortunately, you don't have as many opportunities afforded to you to actually go out there and let guys learn on the fly. So I say all that to say Bates is likely to begin his career with the Charge. I don't think he's going to have a huge impact with the team, but it's not impossible. But we'll see.